got to have what it takes to get to the top. You've got to have that winning attitude. In Winston Cup racing, there are many winners. In this edition, you'll meet 3 of the top drivers on the circuit today. First, one of the most promising drivers on the track and winner of the 1993 Daytona 500, Dale Jarrett. Next, you'll meet the winning driver of the Skull Bandit car, handsome Harry Gant, also known as Mr. September. And we'll visit Harry at work with his favorite hobby, building houses. You'll have to agree this 52-year-old driver continues to improve with age. Then we'll spend some personal time with another Winston Cup winner who continues on his climb to the top in Winston Cup, Ernie Irvan. Now, these are some great guys, so come on, let's get to it. By winning the Champions Spark Plug 400, Dale Jarrett became one of Winston Cup's newest heroes. His battle with Davey Allison on the final lap was a classic.
Davey Allison battles back on the outside. It's going to be a photo finish. They touch coming down through the triangle at the line. Who wins it? I believe Jack.
For Dale, that win was a real dream come true. But it wasn't without tough years and hard work to get to that moment. Even though he comes from one of auto racing's most well-known and best-liked families, with his father Ned already in the Hall of Fame, Dale still had to prove himself on the racetrack. From 1982 through 1987, Dale was a regular on the Busch Grand National Tour, placing in the top 6 of the final point standings each year. In 1987, Dale made the move to the Winston Cup Series, running in 24 races with a couple of top 10 finishes. In 1988 and 1989, Dale ran the full Winston Cup schedule, driving primarily for Cale Yarborough's Hardy's team. As the 1990 season opened, Dale found himself without a ride in Winston Cup, but still running very well with the Busch Series. In April, Neil Bonney was injured in a racing accident in the Trans-South 500. When it was determined Neil would have to step out of the car, the Wood brothers made the call to Dale Jarrett to fill the seat of their famous number 21. By the end of the 1990 season, the team was coming on strong. Dale finished 4th in Atlanta, the final race of the year, his best career finish to that point. Just before Dale's big win in Michigan, it was announced Dale would leave the Wood brothers in 1992 to drive for a new team being formed by Washington Redskins coach Joe Gibbs, with Jimmy Maycar to serve as crew chief. I had a chance to visit with Dale to talk about his future, as well as the road he had to travel to make it to the top. And Dale, do you have to pinch yourself to realize where you are?
Yeah, every once in a while you feel like this is just a dream happening, because everything has come together so quickly, so to speak. You know, it's been a long time getting here, but things are going just exactly like I would have them if I were dreaming up something to go right in my life and in my career. So it's just wonderful, these things happening, and I just want to be able to take advantage of the situations and enjoy the life that I'm having right now.
When and where did you run your first race?
I ran my first race in Hickory, North Carolina in 1978, which was quite a while ago now. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but I had never been in a race car before other than just a couple of practice laps. Although I'd been around them for years and years and years, I never had the opportunity to get in and drive one. And I'd worked on them a little bit, but didn't know much about it. But we built a limited sportsman car, we being Andy Petrie, who's now the crew chief for Harry Gant, and Jimmy Newsom, who owns Newsom Tire in Newton, were high school friends of mine, and they decided to build a race car, and I jumped in, and it was a piece of work, to say the least.
You've been around racing all your life. Is driving a race car all you've ever wanted to do?
Well, I thought that from the time that I was probably 3 or 4 years old. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And then Dad retired from racing when I was only 10, so we got into some other things as far as playing golf and some other sports growing up. And as I attended Newton Conover High School, I had the opportunity to play a number of other sports in football, basketball, and baseball. So these were things that I had an interest in too, and wasn't around racing as much then. And of course, didn't know a lot about the cars, but it still was something that I always thought that I wanted to try, and I wanted just to get that opportunity one time to see if it was something that I liked or not. And having no idea of the rush that it gives you and the amount of competition that is out there, because that's what I've thrived on all my life, is playing some kind of sport or something. And it didn't matter if we were in the backyard or on a field playing in something for the high school. I wanted to win whatever we were doing.
What was the most important, the experience you got in the Busch Series or the fact that you learned how to work on a race car and learn just what goes into a race car?
Well, I think the Busch Series is a great series. It gives you the opportunity to run a lot of the tracks that you're going to be running in Winston Cup. The cars are very similar, and you're racing against a lot of the guys a lot of the times that are on the Winston Cup Series, so you learn that. And that's the way that I always looked at that in racing against them. There were a lot of the guys that complained about, well, they come in and take the money at these places where we have opportunity to win money, but I looked at it that they were Winston Cup drivers and the best in the world for a reason, and those are the guys I wanted to learn from. You know, they didn't get there just for no reason. They had some talent and they knew what they were doing, so that's where I wanted to learn from. But as far as, is that what it takes with to work hard? I think, yeah, you've got to work hard and know something about these race cars to become successful. You can't just sit down in there and try to relate something to your crew chief without knowing a little bit about what you're talking about. And I think that's helped me along the way to be able to set up my own cars and work with them and put them together and know what makes them operate.
1989, you ran the Winston Cup circuit. 1990 started. You was back on the outside looking in. It had to be hard to take.
It was difficult, most difficult time in my life, I guess. And that, as difficult as it was for me, I think for my family, it was even more so. Kelly went through a lot with me feeling like that I could get the job done, but didn't have a ride in the Winston Cup Series, and it was back to my Busch Grand National car. I was very fortunate that I had that to fall back on and still be able to be around the tracks and stay visible to the people around in the sport. So, but it was awfully difficult for me to try to understand what was happening, why I wasn't in a Winston Cup car, because I thought that I'd proven that I could drive the car. I just needed the opportunity and the right equipment, just like so many other people. But I knew that these things were happening for a reason. It's just kind of tough at times to realize what that reason is. And then the break came with the unfortunate accident for Neil Bonnet in the Wood Brothers car at Darlington, that he was injured there, and I got the call. And it's been the one break that I guess everyone needs a break somewhere along the way, and this is the one that has given me what I needed in Winston Cup racing. We went on to get the first win here in 1991 with the Wood Brothers, and I couldn't have been happier to win a race with somebody and help them get back into victory lane.
The win in Michigan. Tell us about your thoughts those last few laps, knowing you had a shot to win your first race.
It's hard to describe what I was thinking because I was concentrating so hard on what I needed to do. I think what I was thinking was that I needed to keep driving the line that I'd been driving, that was working, that was keeping Davey Allison behind me, and I could see that his car wasn't wanting to work on the top of the racetrack. And if he was going to pass me on the inside, he was either going to wreck the both of us or he was going to go down in the infield, one of the two, because I was going to keep that line. And that's all that I wanted to do, was not try to make the car do something that it wasn't capable of doing at that time. I just wanted to do the things that I'd been doing and get to that opportunity on that last lap to win the race. And you don't really think that you can probably out horsepower Davey Allison down the straightaway. There's not many guys that can do it, and I don't know that we did it, but our car worked the best off of that fourth corner and to the start-finish line, and it was as good as anybody. And he got a little bit ahead of me, and I was thinking that, well, maybe I've messed up. There have been some guys that would have probably taken him out going into turn 3 and assured themselves of winning the race, but that wasn't the way that I wanted to do it. And as we got closer to the line and I started to gain back on him, I realized I'd done the right thing. I didn't know if I was going to beat him, but I'd still done the right thing.
It was close. Did you know you'd won?
Yeah. You say, how do you know that you win by 8 inches? But I just knew, and you've been there before, that you know that little surge that my car had gotten to the line first. And I told the guys on the radio, I said, I know that I've won. I hope NASCAR saw it that way.
Dale, in 1992, you'll be driving one of the most visible cars on the Winston Cup circuit. Are you ready to handle that?
Yeah, I think so. There's been a lot happening since the announcement, and you get a lot of fans, a lot of calls from people that weren't really stock car fans, that are Joe Gibbs fans, and they're going to be pulling for Dale Jarrett because I'm working for and with Joe Gibbs. And with the NFL involved and interstate batteries, it's going to be quite an undertaking that we've all gotten involved in here, but I believe that I'm ready for it. I enjoy the media and working with the media. I enjoy the people that I get to meet, and I think that one of the reasons that I decided to go with this deal was the opportunities that I'm going to have in other things besides just driving the race car, in meeting people and getting to know some people at the NFL, and the opportunities that are going to be afforded to Dale Jarrett for that, and that can help my family down the road. So I'm ready for it, and I just hope that we can win a lot of races and fulfill the expectations that we all have and people will have of us.
Harry Gant broke into Winston Cup racing as a 39-year-old rookie in 1979. In the 80s, he was known as the bridesmaid for his string of second-place finishes. But by the end of the decade and into the 90s, he emerged as one of the most consistent drivers on the circuit, racking up 5 Cup wins and 5 Busch Grand National victories during a magical September in 1991. We caught up with Harry doing his favorite things beside driving, knocking in nails. You enjoy building things, don't you?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Houses, buildings, just
whatever, just so it's, you know, working with wood and things I really enjoy.
what, the last couple of years you've continued been building something?
About the last 3 years. I started about 3 years. I took a slack period there from in the middle 80s, you know, when we were, I wasn't doing any building. And I think it was maybe Bristol, Tennessee race on Saturday night. And for the first time ever, my neck started hurting. And, you know, I was a little bit winded when the race was over, so I felt like it would be time that I had some things need to be done real bad and some building I was going to hard done, so I think I'll just do it myself. And I had so much fun doing it for the last 3 years, I just keep continuing doing it. All through the summer, I'll build something. It takes me almost from spring to late fall to get through with it.
Well, now you're building a house for your daughter, and this building that we're leaned up against, this is basically for you,
Yeah.
for your equipment. What's your next project?
We got a big barn over here I'm remodeling. It's a pole barn, and it's got lofts, and I got to brace it all up a lot better and put a whole new skin around it. It's like skinning a race car, and put the metal around it and a lot of stalls inside of it. So then I got about 2 years of repairing on fences.
So you got something to do for the next couple of years?
The next several years, my time's taken up totally, and I enjoy it.
How'd you get in the racing business?
Well, it's sort of I never really thought about being in the racing business. Some boys built a car, and they asked me if I wanted to drive it. Some at Hickory to come down and help with some boys I went to school with, which were older than me, that were basically graduating about the time I was in high school. So I went down and pedaled on that thing, and we finally take it over to Hickory and raced it. And I'd race it 1 week, the other boy would race it 1 week, and in the hobby division, 6-cylinder. And so it was just a lot of fun to be able to go over there on Saturday nights, and then I won the championship, and they promoted you up to a sportsman, and that eliminated me for a couple of years there.
You didn't have a ride?
No, I finally bought an old car and run a few times, got the feel of it, but it turned out it was just a hobby. It turned into being a full-time business then.
When did you become full-time?
1978, that's when I quit building houses, and really in the winter of '77, and started racing, and then immediately I only had to run this a little bit till I got, you know, into a full deal with Jack Beebe and Race Hill Farm Car.
I mean, let's say you were, what, 38?
38, yeah.
38 years
I think I was
old?
39 when I run for the rookie with Earnhardt, and Terry Labonte already run for the rookie. I can't remember the ones in the group now, about 6 of us, but Earnhardt won the rookie that year.
And you was 39-year-old rookie?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was a pretty big gamble to take, wasn't it, to stop your house building, your construction business to go racing?
Well, yeah, it was, but I had my brother was partners with me in the building business, and we'd had our group builders, the guys that helped us for a long, long time, and some of them used to work for my dad, so I just more or less took like a year leave of absence.
I see. You really didn't quit.
No, I could come back at any time. I made that perfectly clear when I left. Now, you know, if this don't work out, I'm going to come back, you know, to building, and then it didn't seem like it was going to. You know, it wasn't a very good income there at all, and then as it went on into 1980, it got a lot better then.
And you started making a living.
Yeah.
First couple of years, it was tough, huh?
Oh yeah, very little. You made very little money. You got a 25 or 30% of the purse, and we didn't run all the races. The purse was pretty small, and I mean, our finishing position was not that great, you know. So the income, I think we grossed maybe $60,000 for the whole year. The car did. So we didn't run all the races, you know.
So you took in about $15,000,
yeah.
and had to pay your own expenses,
Yeah,
probably.
spent 18.
Well, I think a lot of people have seen that movie.
Yeah, but then it got better, you know, and the next year was great for us with the Racefield Farm Jack Beebe team, and then starting in '81 was great, and I had a chance to get into a second Skull car.
How many seconds did you have before you finally won one?
Oh, a lot of them.
What'd they call you?
Bridesmaid, but I was
Bridesmaid, hard
tickled death
luck
to
here.
get that second.
Why?
Oh man, the second place run, you know, my first year in there, in the second year really with Jack Beebe in '79, we run second to Darrell, almost won Dover, you know, we run second to maybe to you, I can't remember, we run a lot of seconds, you know, and I was just tickled death to be finished second, nobody else wasn't finishing second.
Better than third, right?
Right, yeah, and we finished a lot of second, I think 7 or 8 each year there. And then with Travis Carter and the Skull Bandit team, you know, we stood on the pole just right off the bat there at Darlington, and we won that off. Didn't take us long to win.
1991 had to be your biggest year as far as notoriety, money, everything else, wasn't it?
Yeah, race wins. You know, we won 5 that year, and also won 5 Bush. That was 10. It's pretty hard to win 10 races of any division, you know, during the year. But it was the best year. Yeah, definitely. Win 4 in a row, and Winston Cup, and won some good races, and it was it felt good, and hoping to still do that this year.
What is your favorite racetrack or type of racetrack?
Well, I like you know, the mile. I like mile and a half. You know, anything like Michigan, Dover, Darlington, Pocono. I like all those racetracks. Charlotte.
The harder the better. I mean, Dover's they call it the Monster Mile, and Rockingham is called the Rock because you're out there 4.5 hours. That doesn't bother you?
No, it seemed like those are handling tracks, and it just seems like that we just do better on a track like that than it does more of a power track. So I always look forward to, you know, Darlington, Dover, and Rockingham, Pocono, those races.
Does your age help as far as patience, not being too aggressive to begin with and being there at the end of the race?
Well, I hope so. That's the way I try to be, but in the situation we're in right now, looking at maybe, you know, we're still trying to win that championship, and even though we don't try to make that our main thing, still we got to stay on the racetrack, and we got to finish races. So you got to do what it takes to do those things. Last year we didn't in the late part of the year. You know, we geared the car lower. We took, and we just went out to win races. I think you got to look at it in 2 different ways of racing. And if you do want to be, say, win it or be in the top 3 or 4, it takes us some figuring out as you go along. So that's what I try to do now.
You look like you're about 30. How do you do it?
Inherited it.
I mean, seriously, is there some buttermilk you rub on your body or something like? I mean, is there something that you do to look like this?
Just sweat a lot.
I mean, for 52 years old, you're in marvelous shape.
Well, I hope I can stay that way, but you never can tell, you know. What's liable to be wrong with you, you don't even know it. I feel good today, and I feel good all the time. Hope I still feel good at 55, 56.
Following Ernie's win at Daytona, I had the opportunity to visit with Ernie at his home outside Charlotte to learn more about the man many are calling NASCAR's next superstar. Ernie, you knew that the Daytona 500 was a big deal. Did you realize it was as big a deal as it is?
No, not really, Benny. You know, I always heard the Daytona 500. It's the biggest event we ever go to. Well, yeah, I looked at the entry form, and, man, I knew it was a big event, you know. I mean, that's, Kenny Schrader taught me, man. First thing you do is look and see how much that race pays. And, you know, I knew it was big in that aspect, but, you know, to leave the Daytona 500 and to have as many requests as I did when I got home as far as to do news deals, do the David Letterman show, you know, just numerous things. And that's when you find out how big the Daytona 500 is and how big a reaction it has. I mean, it was in Sports Illustrated, which, you know, I mean, racing just doesn't get very much things in magazines like that. And you know, just every time I talk to somebody on the West Coast, you know, they say, oh, well, we saw you're on the cover of this or you're on the cover of that. And it's like, man, it's like the only thing I've ever been on the cover of is Stock Car magazine, you know, so it's definitely a big deal.
Like so many other stock car drivers, Ernie became interested in the sport through his father.
My dad actually started racing in 1959, the year I was born. And the whole time I was growing up, I worked at the wrecking yard. My dad had a wrecking yard, and worked at the wrecking yard and, you know, learned a lot of things about business and cars and just, you know, lots of odds and ends. And he had a lot of times he had the race car there, and we got to work on the race car a little bit. You know, I was a kid, so I didn't get to do much. But he always had this quarter midget sitting in the garage, and he always told me that was my quarter midget. So when I turned 8 years old, he decided he was going to take me to this quarter midget track and let me race.
Ernie eventually became successful at go-karts, winning several California titles. Then, at the ripe age of 16, he started racing stock cars and continued to win.
I raced 5 races the first year I ran, and I won 1. And then when I was 17, I raced 10 races and won 2. And then when I turned 18, we had bought a car from Ivan Baldwin. You know, the basically best car you could buy at the time. Went to Stockton. We were going to run a full season. Me and my mom. My dad was out racing at dirt tracks, and so he didn't get to come. But me and my mom would go racing.
Oh, your mom was behind this as well?
Yeah, oh yeah. My mom was kind of my pit crew at the time because my dad couldn't go. So my mom we'd leave on a Friday. I'd load the car up on Thursday night. I'd go to school on Friday. Mom would drive by, pick me up at school. We'd leave and go to Madera and run Madera on Friday night. And that was, you know, it didn't pay much, and that was just a good place for us to get more experience. We won quite a few races there. And then we'd go and we'd stay at a KOA camp on Friday night after the race at Madera, work on the car all day Saturday morning and afternoon, drive to Stockton, which was another 120 miles, and race there on Saturday nights, and then drive home on Saturday nights and be home on Sunday.
When you were 10, 12 years old, I know you was racing a go-kart, but your little buddies that you played with, did you just race, or did you play baseball, football, basketball?
Well, Benny, I kind of grew up with one guy. His name was Timmy Williamson, and he lived right by my dad's wrecking yard, and his brother worked at my dad's wrecking yard, and Timmy was racing go-karts, and I was racing go-karts, and we grew up together. I mean, that's basically where I hung out all the time. If I didn't go to the wrecking yard, I was at Timmy's house spending the night or whatever, working on go-karts, and that was our thing, was go-karts at the time. And Timmy was a couple years older than I was, and he went into stock cars.
Tragically, Tim Williamson was killed in a stock car race at Riverside, a race that Ernie was competing in himself. Ernie still misses Tim and thinks about him often.
To lose Timmy then was devastating, but I think it hurts me now more than any time. I mean, I catch myself like at Daytona this time. Actually, after Bristol, when I won Bristol, Timmy got more in my mind. I started thinking more about him than I ever had. You know, even now I really realize what I had lost, such a good friend, and I looked through the garage area wondering which car he'd be driving right now, because I knew he was that good of a racer, and he would be in one. I mean, I may look at the Quaker State car thinking, well, I wonder if he'd be in that, because that's the type of racer he was. He was going to be around for a long time. He may have already been a Winston Cup champion, we don't know, but, you know, I mean, even this weekend, I looked at Richmond. After winning Daytona 500, I went to Richmond. That was one of the first thoughts I had was, you know, it would be neat if he was here.
Ernie moved to Concord, North Carolina in 1984 to be with his dad. He immediately dominated the dirt track at Concord Motor Speedway. His first Winston Cup ride was at Richmond in 1987. He ran an abbreviated schedule that year, with a highlight being an 8th place finish at Charlotte. 1988 and 89 were uneventful for Ernie, and 1990 wasn't going to be any better until he got a phone call from car owner Larry McClure.
Well, you know, I wanted to play hard to get, but when you're sitting there with you know, like a couple cans of pork and beans in the refrigerator and not much else, you know, you're hard to play hard to get. So, yeah, I'd be real interested in it. So Larry and myself worked out a deal to go test the car at Atlanta and see if we could work together. And there's a lot of things that make a team work. And so we went to Atlanta to test the car. Third lap on the racetrack, I'd run within about 2/10 as fast as they'd ever been at Atlanta. And there's water on the track still, and I'm just kind of not really running hard. There's water running down the track. And Tony, I'd come in, he's got a smile on his face, you know, and He goes, well, can you go any faster? Yeah, I can go a little faster if you want. But that water's a little edgy. It slips through there pretty good, you know, and it's like, this is at about 170, you know. So by the time we left there that day, we had run, I can't remember the exact time, but it was fast enough to be like third or fourth fast for the race before, and was pretty pumped up because we had run through the water, and there was about 15 cars there testing, and we were 4/10 quicker than anybody there. So Larry and myself went back, and we pretty much worked all the details out for our contract, and you basically what he wanted to set up, and we come back to Atlanta, rained out qualifying, started 30th in the race and ran third. So from then on, it's just been great.
What's next? What's your goal? Championship? More races? What?
Win more races. Learn to be more consistent. You know, you can't go to Daytona, win the 500, then come to Richmond and run 27th. That's not good. So we got to get the consistency there. You know, obviously this year I want to finish in the top 5 in points, win 5 or 6 races. Obviously I want to win the championship, but I mean I would be pretty satisfied with the top 5 in points and win up to 5 races.
Well, thanks for joining me once again on NASCAR Video Magazine, the Collector Series. It's my pleasure to be able to bring it to you, but I expect you to let me know what you think, so I'm counting on you to write me at the address on the screen. Thanks again, and see you on the next edition.
Transportation provided by Winnebago Industries, manufacturer of the Winnebago Itasca Motorhomes. For more information on Winnebago Motorsports Team, call 1-800-643-4892.